The rain did not fall that morning, it attacked. Sheets of water hammered the chapel roof, rattling like a drumline of grief. Thunder rolled across the sky, long and low, as if nature itself were mourning a child gone far too soon. Inside St. Mary's Chapel, every seat was filled, yet a heavy emptiness clung to the air. People whispered in hushed tones, avoiding eye contact, their breaths shaking as they wiped tears that clung stubbornly to their lashes. No one knew what to say. No one knew how to process a loss so unfair, so brutal, so impossibly out of order. 6-year-old Lily Parker, bright-eyed, freckle-cheeked, a giggle that used to echo through grocery store aisles, playgrounds and police hallways, gone. The white coffin, impossibly small, painfully innocent, rested at the front of the chapel. It was surrounded by flowers, teddy bears, and handmade cards from her first-grade class. The scent of lilies and rainwater blended into the cold, damp air. Officer Mark Reeves sat on the front row, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched. His uniform felt too tight, like it was strangling him. He had stared down armed suspects, rescued victims from burning buildings, even held the hands of the dying, but nothing had ever broken him like this. And sitting beside him was Shadow, his canine partner, a German shepherd who never needed words to communicate. Shadow's ears were pinned back, nose twitching, muscles rigid. He wasn't restless. He was alert. Reeves noticed it. He'd always noticed Shadow. He leaned in slightly. "Easy, boy," he whispered. "It's okay." But Shadow didn't respond. He didn't whine, didn't glance at Reeves, didn't shift his weight. His amber eyes were fixed on the white coffin, unblinking, almost afraid. Reeves' stomach knotted. Something was wrong. The pastor cleared his throat, struggling to project his voice over the storm. "We are gathered here today to celebrate the short but beautiful life of..." The thunder outside overlapped his words, and in that moment, Shadow stood, not gradually. He launched to his feet. Reeves blinked. "Shadow?" Then the unthinkable happened. The dog yanked the leash so hard it nearly ripped Reeves' shoulder out of its socket. Before Reeves could tighten his grip, Shadow tore free. Gasps echoed through the pews. Shadow sprinted down the aisle, claws clicking, tail low, ears up, his entire body trembling with urgency. People pulled back in confusion. Some stood. Some cried out. Lily's parents turned sharply, startled. Shadow reached the coffin. Then he placed both front paws gently, heartbreakingly gently, on its smooth surface, and refused to move. Reeves' blood ran cold. "Shadow." Off. Shadow didn't even flinch. He lowered his head, pressing his muzzle against the wooden lid as though listening for something inside. Then a soft, strangled sound escaped his throat. A whine so full of pain, longing, and fear that the entire chapel fell silent. Lily's mother covered her mouth. "Oh God." Reeves rushed forward, grabbing Shadow's harness. "Buddy, what are you doing?" "Come on, come," Shadow growled. Not a vicious growl, a warning growl, directed at Reeves. The entire room froze. Shadow had never done that in his 4 years of service. Reeves raised his hand slowly, shocked. Okay, easy. Talk to me, Shadow. What is it?" Shadow's body shook. His nose pressed harder against the coffin. His breathing quickened. Every instinct inside him was screaming. Reeves recognized the behavior, and the hair on his arm stood on end. This wasn't grief. This was alerting. Shadow was reacting the same way he did when he scented explosives, trapped survivors, or dangerous people hiding in a room. Reeves felt ice crawl down his spine. The pastor stepped forward timidly. "Officer Reeves, is your dog? Are you certain he's all right?" Reeves swallowed. Shadow doesn't make mistakes. Captain Harris, sitting a few rows back, stood abruptly. His voice cut like steel. "What is he alerting to?" Reeves didn't answer, because he didn't know. But Shadow did something none of them expected. He pawed at the coffin, claws tapping urgently, then stepped back and let out a single, sharp bark. It was the bark Reeves knew better than any other. Not a fearful bark, not a sad bark, a warning, a bark that meant, something is wrong, something is inside. Murmurs rose. Lily's father paled. Her mother collapsed into shaking sobs. Reeves stared at the coffin, adrenaline pumping, heart pounding in his throat. Shadow had never been wrong. And if he was alerting on a coffin that was supposed to contain a dead child, then something inside wasn't dead, or something inside wasn't right. The storm thundered again, violently, as if punctuating the terror rippling through the room. Reeves whispered, barely able to breathe, "Shadow." What the hell are you trying to tell us? Shadow barked again, louder, harder, demanding, and the entire chapel understood one thing. This funeral was about to unravel a truth none of them were prepared to face. The chapel had fallen into a kind of terrified stillness, the kind that squeezes air from the lungs and freezes every heartbeat. Shadow stood like a statue, body tense, fur bristling, eyes locked onto the coffin as though he were staring into the face of something the rest of them couldn't see. Officer Mark Reeves felt sweat gather at his temples despite the cold draft blowing from the open chapel doors. Shadow wasn't just misbehaving. He wasn't confused. He wasn't overwhelmed by grief. Reeves knew this dog better than he knew most people, and what Shadow was doing now was something he only did in one circumstance, when he sensed danger, movement, or life where none should be. Captain Harris stepped forward, voice firm but trembling. "Reeves, talk to your dog. Talk to his dog." Reeves had been doing this since Shadow was 18 months old, and Shadow had always listened. Always. But now, Shadow, Reeves whispered, stepping closer, palms out like he was approaching a suspect. "Buddy, heel. Come to me." No reaction. "Shadow, heel." Nothing. Shadow only pressed his nose harder against the wood, sniffing with short, forceful breaths. His muscles tightened. His tail lowered, stiff like a rod. His paws shifted, searching, sending, and signaling something Reeves didn't understand. Not yet. Lily's father, red-eyed and trembling, stood up abruptly. "What is happening? Someone tell me why your dog is doing that." Shadow snapped his head in the man's direction and let out a deep, guttural growl. The man stumbled back as if struck. "Everyone stay calm," Harris ordered, though his voice cracked. "The canine is trained to detect." He stopped, as if realizing mid-sentence that saying it aloud would ignite a firestorm. Detect what? Explosives, drugs, human remains, or someone alive? The thought twisted Reeves' stomach. The pastor, pale as the lilies around the coffin, clutched his Bible tighter. "This is a funeral. There is no threat here. The poor child has already passed." But Shadow suddenly barked, loudly, sharply, the kind of bark that ricocheted off the chapel walls and made everyone flinch. Reeves felt his heart slam inside his chest. That bark wasn't random. It wasn't frustration. It was a command bark, Shadow signaling that something was wrong and needed immediate attention. "Mark," Lily's mother whispered, her voice quivering. "Why is he barking at my baby's coffin? Why?" She choked on her words, collapsing into her husband's arms. Reeves's hands trembled. "I don't know. I swear I don't." Shadow pawed the coffin again, claws scraping wood, then barked in a rhythm Reeves recognized from training. Alert. Confirm. Insist. One bark. Pause. Second bark. Pause. Third. Louder. Urgent. Demanding. "Jesus," Reeves whispered. "He's trying to tell us something's inside." Murmurs burst through the room like sparks. "Inside. Inside. Inside." Captain Harris exchanged a horrified look with Reeves. "Is he scenting movement?" Reeves shook his head helplessly. "I don't know. I've never seen him like this. Not even during live search and rescue." A funeral attendant tried stepping forward. "Maybe he just misses the little girl." Dogs grieve. Shadow whirled and snarled with a ferocity that sent the man stumbling backwards. Shadow wasn't grieving. Shadow was guarding. Reeves felt a cold wave wash over him. He knelt slowly. "Shadow, talk to me, boy. What do you smell?" Shadow inhaled again, deeper this time, then his entire body shuddered. He stepped back from the coffin and barked twice, tail rigid, eyes darting to Reeves and then back to the wooden box. Reeves's heart felt like it stopped beating. Shadow was giving him a signal Reeves had trained him to give only in one scenario: presence detected, alive, distressed. "Captain," Reeves said hoarsely. "He's giving me the live alert pattern." Gasps. Someone dropped their umbrella. The pastor nearly dropped his Bible. Lily's father shook his head violently. "No, she's gone. We saw her. They told us." Shadow barked again, cutting him off. Lily's mother let out a sound that was part sob, part scream. "Open it. Please, open it. Open it now." Captain Harris hesitated, torn between protocol and panic. "This is extremely unusual. If we open a coffin during a funeral, protocol?" Reeves snapped. "You think protocol matters if there's even a chance?" Thunder cracked so loudly the walls shook. Shadow barked again, pacing frantically, circling the coffin, nose twitching, breath growing more anxious by the second. Reeves grabbed Harris's arm. "Sir, we need to open it, Now, Harris looked at Shadow, then at the trembling parents, then at the coffin that suddenly felt like the most terrifying object in the world. Finally, he nodded once, sharp, decisive. Get a crowbar. We're opening it. The funeral attendants froze. Now, Harris roared. A man sprinted toward the storage room. Shadow barked wildly, faster, as though urging them to hurry. Reeves stared at the coffin, chest tight, breath shallow. He didn't know what they'd find inside. A body, something else, or nothing at all. But whatever it was, Shadow knew, and that terrified Reeves more than anything. The attendant rushed back into the chapel with a crowbar in hand, his face pale, his fingers trembling so violently the metal clinked against the floor. Every whisper died. Every breath hung in the thick, electric silence. Even the storm seemed to pause outside, as though nature itself wanted to witness what was about to happen. Shadow continued circling the coffin in sharp, fast loops, not wild, but purposeful. His nose dipping low, then rising, then lowering again. His tail stiffened into a straight line of tension. Every movement screamed the same terrifying message. Something is inside. Something alive. Something wrong. Officer Mark Reeves felt like his heart was trying to claw its way out of his chest. Lily's mother sobbed into her husband's sweater, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Her father paced back and forth, face contorting between disbelief and horror. Captain Harris took the crowbar, jaw clenched so tightly a vein pulsed in his temple. Back everyone up, people shuffled away, stumbling over their own feet, bumping into pews, clutching their jackets and tissues. A few couldn't look. A few couldn't look away. Shadow finally planted himself directly in front of the coffin, rigid, guarding it like a soldier on the front line. Reeves crouched beside his dog. Shadow, you sure about this? Shadow didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then, nose pressed against the wood, he let out a single guttural whine that cut straight into Reeves's chest like a blade. Shadow had never been this certain of anything in his life. All right, Harris said through gritted teeth. We're opening it. He wedged the crowbar into the seam of the lid. The metal scraped. Shadow barked, once, a warning. Reeves felt a chill crawl up his spine. Shadow wasn't warning Harris. He was warning whatever, or whoever, was inside. The lid gave a small crack. A woman screamed. Lily's father clutched the pew so hard his knuckles went bone-white. Please, please, God, let this be a mistake. Harris pushed harder. The wood creaked. The sound echoed through the chapel like something breaking apart deep inside every person present. Reeves felt sweat drip down his back, cold despite the warmth of the crowded room. Shadow suddenly shoved his nose under the edge of the coffin, whining fast, urgent. Shadow, back. Reeves tried to pull him away, but Shadow snapped, not at him, but at the coffin again, signaling, hurry. Now, Reeves's throat went dry. Something was happening. Something the dog understood instinctively. Something the humans were seconds away from discovering. Harris grunted, pushing the crowbar further. The lid groaned and then suddenly popped upward with a jarring crack that echoed like a gunshot. Several people gasped. One elderly woman fainted into her daughter's arms. Shadow backed up the steps, barking so violently spit flew from his mouth. Reeves swallowed hard and stepped closer. Harris lifted the lid. 1 inch, 2 inches. The room held its collective breath. Then the lid rose fully, and every soul in the chapel froze. The coffin was empty, not partially empty, not disturbed, not tampered with, completely empty. No dress, no body, no padding, just blank, cold wood. A void where Lily Parker, a 6-year-old girl who supposedly died 2 days ago, was supposed to be lying. The pastor staggered backward. What? What does this mean? Lily's mother screamed, collapsing. Her father rushed to her, shouting, Where is she? Where is my daughter? Reeves felt a wave of nausea crash into him. His legs almost buckled. Shadow leapt into the empty coffin, sniffing furiously, using his paws to scratch at the wood as though searching for a hidden compartment. Anything, but found nothing. Captain Harris's voice came out hoarse. This coffin was sealed at the funeral home. Delivered this morning. Confirmed by staff. Then someone opened it. Lily's father yelled. No, Harris said, face draining of all color. There are no signs of forced entry. Reeves felt his blood run cold. Sir. She was taken before the coffin even arrived. Shadow suddenly froze inside the coffin. Nose pointed toward a single corner. He inhaled sharply, the way he did when catching a scent trail. His tail rose slightly. His muscles tightened. Then he barked. Not a confused bark. Not an alarm bark. This was a pursuit bark, the same one he used when he locked onto a suspect's trail. Reeves's eyes widened. He has a scent. Harris snapped his head toward him. What kind? Reeves swallowed. Fresh. Very fresh. The entire chapel erupted into chaos, shouting, sobbing, frantic confusion. But Shadow didn't care. He jumped out of the coffin, nose glued to the ground, pulling hard in a direction no one expected. Not toward the chapel doors, not toward the casket stand, but toward the far back exit, a small wooden door that led into the open field behind the church. Reeves grabbed Shadow's leash. The dog yanked, hard. Captain. Reeves shouted. Shadow's tracking someone. He has the kidnapper's trail. Kidnapper? Lily's father gasped. Kidnapper? You're telling me. Shadow barked again, louder, more urgent, pulling relentlessly toward the door. Reeves's heart pounded as he met Harris's stunned, terrified gaze. Sir, Reeves said, breath trembling, Shadow's never been this sure. Someone took Lily. Harris swallowed hard, then nodded once. Everyone stand back, he commanded. We're following that dog. Shadow lunged forward, dragging Reeves toward the exit. The truth was no longer just suspicious. It was undeniable. Lily Parker hadn't died. She'd been taken, and whoever took her was still close. For 3 hours after the funeral service, Officer Mark Dalton stood outside the church, talking with grieving neighbors, friends, and scattered family members. But even as he spoke to them, his eyes kept drifting toward the old stone steps where Coda lay curled, head resting on his paws, staring at the church doors as if waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. Mark couldn't shake the image from inside the way the massive canine had refused to leave Lily's coffin, pressing his face against it like he was guarding her from the world. But something else stirred in Mark, a feeling he didn't like, a feeling that meant he might have missed something. Detective Sarah McConnell approached him with that same troubled look. You're thinking what I'm thinking, she muttered, eyes narrowing. That this wasn't an accident, Mark replied quietly. Sarah exhaled sharply. Yeah, the official story was simple. Little Lily Connor had been killed in a hit-and-run just after sunset. No witnesses, no leads, no cameras in that stretch of road. The driver had never been found. Case closed. Tragic, but closed. But as Mark stared at Coda, who hadn't moved an inch since they left the casket, he knew the dog was telling them something. Coda was with her, Mark whispered. Sarah nodded. Dogs don't act like this unless they've seen something. The church doors creaked open. Officer Reynolds stepped out, wiping sweat from his forehead. Medical examiner wants to talk, he said. Something about the autopsy. Mark and Sarah exchanged a look. Exhaustion evaporated from their faces. This was the first time that me had requested a direct meeting instead of sending a written report. Inside the dim church hallway, Dr. Adrian Holt, waited with a folder tucked under his arm. His expression was grim. I thought you ruled it an impact fatality, Sarah said. I did, the me replied. But there's something we missed. He opened the folder and laid out several photos, none gruesome, but all detailed. Bruising patterns, scrapes, something else small, distinct indentations near Lily's shoulder. What are those? Mark asked. Dr. Holt hesitated. At first we assumed they came from the fall, but the spacing is to deliberate. Deliberate how? Sarah pressed. The me swallowed, like someone grabbed her, hard. The hallway fell silent. Mark's jaw tightened. You're saying she was handled before the car hit her. I'm saying the car might not have been the thing that killed her, Dr. Holt said quietly. Her injuries don't line up with the standard impact. Sarah blinked slowly. Then why list it as a hit and run? Because, Holt said, lowering his voice, there's evidence someone tried to make it look like one. Mark's stomach dropped. Staged. The word hung in the air like smoke. Why would someone do that to a child? The me whispered. Sarah paced. Okay. Someone grabs her. Maybe she screams. Coda attacks. Someone panics. Hits her with a car to cover. Mark shook his head. No. If Coda attacked someone, he'd have blood on him. He doesn't. The me closed the folder. Whatever happened, you need to reopen the case. Mark already knew he would. But the question was, where to start? A sound echoed down the hallway, a sudden, sharp bark. Coda. The three of them looked toward the door. The dog was no longer lying still. He was pacing, ears up, nose flaring, body suddenly alert. What's wrong with him? Reynolds asked. Coda froze, head turning toward the end of the hallway like he was tracking something. Something none of them could see. Then he growled. Not the loud, intimidating bark of a trained canine. No, this was low, primal, trembling. Sarah's eyes widened. He smelled something. Mark followed the dog's gaze. There right above the church exit was a security camera. Old, dusty, half-broken, probably never used. Reynolds scoffed. That thing hasn't worked since 2019. Coda barked sharply, staring at it. Tail stiff, Mark stepped toward it, heart pounding. What if Lily's killer came through here before or after the funeral, and Coda remembers the scent? Sarah whispered. Mark's throat went dry. Reynolds, he said sharply, get a ladder. Why? The camera's dead. Mark stared at Coda, who was now trembling, nails scraping the floor as he stared up at the device. Because Coda says it isn't. Reynolds groaned, but went anyway. Within minutes, he unscrewed the back plate and blinked in confusion. Mark. What? Reynolds stepped down slowly, holding something in his palm. A tiny memory card. New. Untouched. Bright blue. Someone had installed it recently. Why would someone put a new card in an old camera? Reynolds muttered, but Mark wasn't listening anymore. He was staring at Coda, because the dog wasn't looking at the memory card. He was staring at the church entrance, growling again, as if the person who put that card there had just walked back inside and was standing somewhere behind them. The church hallway suddenly felt smaller, suffocating. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of the old wooden floor magnified. Officer Mark Dalton's pulse slammed against his ribs like a jackhammer. Coda's growl deepened, vibrating through the air, warning of an unseen presence. Sarah McConnell's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm. Mark, someone's here, she whispered, voice tight with fear. Mark nodded. Stay close. Keep your eyes open. The memory card trembled slightly in Reynolds' hand. A small, blinky warning that danger had arrived. Before anyone could move further, Coda bolted toward the church exit, dragging Mark with him. Wait, Coda, slow down, Mark shouted, stumbling over the slick tile floor, but the dog didn't slow. He had picked up a scent trail, a faint trace of perfume and sweat that wasn't Lily's. Not any of the family, not any church staff. The rain outside had intensified, turning the church courtyard into a mire of mud and puddles. Headlights from distant cars splashed dimly across the horizon, but here, in this moment, the only light came from flickering overhead lamps and the occasional lightning strike. Coda skidded across the wet pavement, nose glued to the ground, ears flat against his head. Mark ran after him, heart hammering, mind racing. Who could have taken Lily? And why would they return here? Sarah and Reynolds followed close behind. They were soaked through, boots sucking in the mud. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every sound could be the one that ends the case or ends them. The trail led them toward the old forest. Behind the church, tall pine trees rose like jagged sentinels, their branches thrashing in the storm. Rain turned to sleet, stinging exposed skin. Coda didn't hesitate. He ran like he knew exactly where he was going. Mark's lungs burned. Coda, wait. But the dog only barked sharply and disappeared between two trees, nose to the ground, tracking the intruder. Sarah whispered urgently, he's onto something. He smells the kidnapper. Mark clenched his fists. The thought of Lily alone, scared, in someone's hands, made his stomach twist. Shadow had been right all along. She wasn't dead. Someone had taken her. The forest grew darker, shadows melting with the storm. Thunder rumbled overhead. Then Coda froze suddenly. Mark collided into him, heart in his throat. The dog's hackles were raised. His teeth were bared, and he was staring straight ahead, at a small, abandoned hunting cabin barely visible through the trees. Jesus, that's it, Mark muttered. That's where they're hiding her. Lightning illuminated the cabin briefly, revealing boards nailed haphazardly over windows. A front door slightly ajar. Smoke curled lazily from a metal chimney, though the cabin had clearly been abandoned for years. Sarah's hand hovered over her holster. We can't just walk in. We need backup. Mark shook his head. We don't have time. If Lily's alive, they'll know someone's here soon. Coda whined, pawing at the mud, urging them forward. The dog had never been more insistent. Mark gestured. Split up. Keep eyes on all exits. Don't fire unless absolutely necessary. They advanced cautiously. Each step over wet leaves and muddy earth echoed through the still forest. The cabin door creaked, and inside, shadows shifted. Mark froze. He could see the faint outline of a small figure huddled in the corner. Lily. She's alive, Sarah breathed. Before they could react, a voice cut through the storm, smooth, low, and chilling. "You shouldn't have come here." Mark's blood ran cold. From the shadows of the doorway, a tall man stepped into the dim light. His face was partially obscured by a hood, but his eyes glinted with cold calculation. He held a gun loosely at his side, trained casually on them. Coda growled, low and dangerous, and crouched slightly, ready to pounce. "Step away from her." Mark shouted, heart hammering. The man tilted his head, amusement in his tone. "Do you really think you can just take her back? She belongs to us now." Mark's hands tightened on his weapon. "She's a child. You don't belong to anyone." The man's lips curved into a cold smile. "She's not like other children. She isn't supposed to exist, and neither are you." Mark froze, shock and rage colliding. "What the hell are you talking about?" The man's eyes darted to the huddled figure in the corner. Lily whimpered softly, her tiny hands clenching her knees. "Whoever you are, I'm taking her home. Now." Mark barked, stepping forward, Coda beside him, teeth bared and muscles taut. The intruder raised his gun just as Coda lunged, snarling. Gunfire erupted. The first shot cracked through the forest, splintering a tree trunk near Mark's shoulder. Sarah and Reynolds dove for cover. The storm above thundered like a war drum. Mark felt adrenaline flood his veins. "Coda, protect her." The dog barked, snapping fiercely, and jumped between Mark and the intruder. Mark's mind went razor sharp. He had one chance, one clear opening, and the longer they hesitated, the more dangerous it became for Lily, for Coda, and for themselves. He took a deep breath, then charged, through rain, mud, and chaos, and toward a truth he wasn't prepared for, a truth the man would try to protect at all costs. The forest echoed with shouts, gunfire, and Coda's growls as the chase truly began. Rain slammed into the forest with a fury that matched Mark Dalton's racing pulse. Each thunderclap shook the cabin walls, echoing the chaos inside. Shadows danced across broken furniture and dusty floorboards. Coda's growls filled the air, deep and urgent, as he lunged at the intruder, teeth bared, muscles taut. Mark pressed forward, weapon raised, his boots slipping in the slick mud at the cabin entrance. "Stay behind me," he shouted to Sarah and Reynolds, who had ducked behind a rotting tree trunk just outside. Inside, the intruder's movements were deliberate, controlled. He held his gun loosely in one hand, gesturing with the other. His face remained partially obscured by a hood, but the glint of his eyes pierced the dim light. "You really think you can take her?" the man hissed. "You don't understand what she is." Coda snapped at the intruder's hand, forcing him to recoil. A shot rang out, shattering a window and sending splinters flying. Mark felt the impact in his chest, not his body, but his stomach, a visceral punch of fear and adrenaline. "Step away from her," Mark barked, heart hammering. The man didn't move. Instead, he crouched slightly, voice low and cold. "She's not like other children. She's not meant to exist in your world." Mark froze. "What the hell do you mean?" The intruder's gaze flicked to the corner of the cabin, where a small figure huddled on the floor. Lily, her wide, terrified eyes blinked up at him, tiny hands clinging to her knees. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded from outside, her voice shaking. "What have you done with her?" The man's lips curved into a twisted smile. "I didn't take her. Not exactly. I rescued her." "Rescued her?" Mark repeated, disbelief clawing at his voice. "She's a 6-year-old child. How is this a rescue?" "Her parents," the man said, nodding toward the forest, "don't know what she truly is. No one does. She's part of something bigger." Mark felt blood drain from his face. "Part of what?" The man stepped closer to the huddled child. "She's not supposed to live a normal life. Not with ordinary people. She carries something dangerous. Something that could destroy lives if it fell into the wrong hands." Lily whimpered, voice shaking. Mark's chest tightened. "I've got you, Lily. I'm not letting anyone hurt you." The intruder froze, watching the exchange. "I don't want to hurt her. I'm here to protect her. But if you come any closer..." His hand shifted subtly toward his gun. Coda growled, low and warning, tail stiff, ears flat. He had sensed the weight of this man's threat, understood it in a way no human could. Mark's mind raced. The storm outside thundered in perfect synchronization with the chaos inside. He needed a plan, fast. One wrong move, and Lily could be in danger or worse. "Listen to me," Mark said, keeping his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through him. "We're not here to take her from you. We want to keep her safe. Help us understand. Help us help her. The man's eyes flicked to Coda, then back to Mark. His jaw tightened. I don't have time for explanations. They're coming. The people who created her, they'll be here any minute. If you touch her, you'll draw them straight to her. Do you understand? Mark felt the world narrow to a single point. Lily's fragile form, Coda's tense muscles, the intruder's gun, and the unspoken threat outside. Whoever created Lily, whoever had orchestrated this nightmare, was on its way. Sarah edged closer to the cabin door, gun drawn. Then tell us what's happening before someone else gets hurt. The man's expression softened, just slightly, as though weighed down by an unbearable burden. I stole her back because no one else could protect her. She isn't just a child, she's engineered, designed, a living experiment that some very dangerous people will stop at nothing to reclaim. Mark's heart skipped a beat. Engineered? Experiment. The man nodded grimly. Yes, she has abilities. Knowledge embedded in her DNA. Something powerful. Something they want. Something deadly if mishandled. Lily flinched, burying her face in her knees. Mark knelt beside her. I'm here, Lily. You're safe for now. We'll figure this out together. Coda whined softly, nudging her shoulder with his nose, protective, loyal. A reminder that she wasn't alone. The intruder's eyes hardened. I can't let them find her. And now, neither can you. Not unless you're ready to face what she really is. Mark glanced at Sarah and Reynolds. The storm outside, the growing darkness, the tension in the air had all pressed down on them. One wrong move, and it would be too late. Then a new sound pierced the cabin, a distant engine, rapid footsteps crunching over wet leaves. They're here, the intruder hissed, panic flickering in his eyes. Get ready. Whoever comes through that forest won't hesitate to take her alive or dead. Mark tightened his grip on his weapon. Coda growled, hackles raised, ears forward, every muscle coiled for action. Lily's small voice trembled. Mark, are they coming for me? Mark held her gaze, voice steady despite the fear. They are, but we're not going to let them. The cabin door rattled violently as wind and rain battered it. Outside, figures emerged through the storm, three dark silhouettes moving swiftly, methodically, toward the cabin. Mark's heart pounded. Coda barked, the sound cutting through the storm like a blade. The moment of confrontation had arrived. The kidnapper, the child, and the officers faced the coming storm together. But no one could predict what horrors or truths would be revealed next. The storm outside screamed like a living thing, rain hammering the roof, lightning slashing across the sky. Every shadow in the cabin seemed alive. Mark Dalton's muscles were taut, his senses stretched to the breaking point. Coda growled, body low, tail stiff, eyes fixed on the door. Mark, Sarah's voice trembled. They're coming for her. We can't hold them off forever. Mark didn't answer. He only stared at the intruder, his eyes hard, unwavering. The man's gun hand shook slightly now, the weight of control cracking. But Mark noticed the fear behind his eyes. Fear not for himself, but for the child. Lily whimpered, pressed to Mark's side. They're going to take me. No, Mark whispered. Not if I can help it. Then the first shot rang out. The cabin door splintered as a bullet slammed into the wall beside Mark's head. What shards rained down, bouncing off his shoulders. Coda lunged, teeth snapping, barking so loud it nearly shattered the storm's roar. Move, Mark yelled, pushing Lily behind the couch. Sarah fired a return shot through the broken doorway, the sound of gunfire mixing with thunder. The intruder dove for cover beside the huddled child. Get her out of here, he shouted, urgency sharp in his voice. They'll kill her if we stay. Mark's heart pounded. I know. Coda, cover us. The dog barked, teeth bared, launching toward the door, intercepting one of the approaching figures. A man in dark rain gear stumbled backward, shouting, firing wildly into the cabin. Bullets ricocheted off the walls, splintering furniture, sending clouds of dust into the air. Mark grabbed Lily's hand. Run. Sarah followed with Reynolds, firing behind them to cover their retreat. Coda stayed in the doorway, growling, snapping, a wall of fur and teeth holding back the intruders. They barreled through the forest, rain whipping against their faces. Lightning flashed, illuminating three figures moving with lethal precision through the storm. Lily's small voice trembled in Mark's ear. Mark, I'm scared. I know, kiddo, Mark said, voice calm but edged with adrenaline. Stay with me. Coda's right behind us. You're going to be okay. They reached a clearing, mud sucking at their boots. Coda arrived moments later, barking and circling, ready to strike if anyone approached. But the intruders weren't done. One of them leaped from the trees, knife glinting in the lightning. Coda intercepted instantly, jaws snapping inches from the attacker's arm. A struggle ensued, a blur of teeth, rain, and adrenaline. Mark seized the opportunity. Go now. Sarah and Reynolds grabbed Lily and ran. Mark close behind. Coda fought with relentless precision, buying them seconds that felt like hours. The storm's fury escalated. Thunder boomed, lightning illuminated the chaos, and the forest seemed to close in around them. Suddenly, the intruder Lily's reluctant protector shouted, "Mark, you have to trust me." Mark glanced back. The man had overpowered one of the attackers, gun drawn. "Do what you have to." The remaining intruders hesitated, regrouping. But Coda's growls cut through the night like a knife. The dog lunged again, teeth snapping, forcing them back. Mark reached the edge of the forest. Ahead, the headlights of police vehicles cut through the darkness. Reinforcements had arrived. But before relief could settle in, the intruder spoke again, voice urgent, desperate. "Listen to me. She isn't just a child, she's the key. They'll come after her again. You have no idea what's at stake." Mark froze, heart hammering. The key to what? The man's eyes met Lily's. To everything. If they get her, it won't just be her life at risk. It'll be everyone's. Sarah tightened her grip on Lily. "What do you mean? Who are they?" Before the intruder could answer, the first car screeched to a halt. Officers jumped out, weapons drawn. The intruder raised his hands, nodding. "I'll explain, but not here. Not yet. We have to move her first." Mark exchanged a tense glance with Sarah. They had no choice. Lily was too valuable, too vulnerable. Too much was at stake. Coda barked once, sharply, and then ran to Mark's side, a silent guardian. Mark lifted Lily into his arms. "Let's get her somewhere safe." The intruder fell into step beside them, voice low. "You don't understand. She was made for a reason, and now that reason is hunting her." Mark's stomach twisted. Made for what? The man's eyes darkened. To change everything, and they'll stop at nothing to reclaim her. You think tonight was bad? This is only the beginning. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the group as they sprinted toward the vehicles. Mud and rain mixing into a chaotic blur. Coda stayed beside them, growling at every shadow, every movement, every unseen threat lurking in the storm. Mark's grip tightened on Lily, his jaw clenched. Sarah's eyes were wide, alert, scanning the forest, and the intruder, reluctant ally, mysterious protector, kept one hand on his weapon, scanning the tree line. Somewhere in the distance, the storm raged, masking the sound of approaching danger. Mark realized, with a sinking feeling, that the night wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Someone or something was coming for Lily, and this time, they wouldn't stop for anyone. The rain had slowed to a relentless drizzle by the time the convoy of police vehicles rumbled down the muddy forest road. Mark Dalton carried Lily tightly in his arms, her small body shivering, but alive. Coda trotted faithfully at his side, ears alert, nose sniffing every shadow. Sarah McConnell and Reynolds flanked them, weapons drawn, eyes scanning for the enemy the intruder had warned about. The man, the intruder, the one who had risked everything to protect Lily, walked beside them, hood still obscuring his face, but with a strange gravity in his steps. His voice, when he finally spoke, was soft but urgent. "Listen carefully," he said. "You don't understand the full scope yet. She was engineered, a living experiment. They designed her to carry knowledge and abilities far beyond a normal human. She is literally the key to something much bigger than any of you can imagine." Mark tightened his grip on Lily. "Knowledge? Abilities? She's 6 years old. You're saying some people built her for some purpose?" The intruder's eyes darkened. "Yes, and if they get her back, it won't just be her life at risk, it'll be countless lives. Maybe the world as you know it. That's why I took her. That's why she can't be with her parents." "Not yet." Lily's small voice trembled. "Mark, am I bad?" Or Mark's heart ached. He knelt and met her gaze, rain dripping down both of their faces. "No, Lily, you're not bad. You're special. And special doesn't mean dangerous, it means important. And right now, you're safe with us." The convoy slowed as they approached a remote safe house, a reinforced building hidden deep in the woods. Mark set Lily down gently on the wet ground. Coda immediately circled her, nudging her with his nose as if reassuring her he would never leave. Inside, dry clothes, blankets, and hot cocoa waited. Lily's small hands trembled as she clutched the cup. She took a careful sip, eyes darting toward the intruder. Who are you? She asked softly. The man removed his hood for the first time, revealing a face lined with stress, exhaustion, and determination. Someone who promised to protect you. That's all you need to know for now. Mark looked at him, frustration mixed with awe. You put your life at risk for a child you barely know. Why? The man's gaze softened as he looked at Lily, because no one else could, and because some things, some responsibilities, can't be ignored, no matter the cost. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed. She answered it cautiously. Her eyes widened, her voice dropping to a whisper. Mark, you need to hear this. Mark leaned close. What is it? Sarah handed him the phone. The voice on the other end was urgent, almost frantic, a scientist. One of the people behind the experiment. We know where she is, the scientist said. You've delayed us, but we're on our way. If she isn't returned immediately, there will be consequences you cannot imagine. Mark's jaw tightened. They know she's alive. Coda growled low in his throat, ears flat. Mark looked at him, understanding instantly. The dog's instincts had never been wrong. This wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Lily clutched his arm. Mark, will they hurt me? No, Mark said, voice firm. Not while I'm here. Not while Coda's here. You're safe. I promise. The intruder stepped forward, placing a hand on Mark's shoulder. You've bought her some time, but it won't last long. They are relentless. And if they get her, everything will change. For everyone. Mark swallowed hard, the weight of the words pressing down like the storm itself. He glanced at Lily, sleepy, exhausted, but alive, and felt a protective fire ignite in his chest. Then we fight, Mark said firmly. We protect her. We don't let them take her, no matter what. The intruder nodded slowly. Good. You'll need allies, strategy, and trust. This child's life depends on all three. Outside, the storm had begun to clear. Rain soaked the trees, lending now a faint glow in the distance. But in Mark's chest, the storm raged on. He knew the fight wasn't over. Lily's journey was just beginning, and with Coda, Sarah, Reynolds, and this mysterious protector, he vowed no one would ever take her again. Lily yawned, leaning against Mark. He stroked her hair, heart heavy but resolute. The world outside was dangerous, dark, and unpredictable. But inside that safe house, she was protected for now. Coda rested his massive head on her lap, amber eyes sharp and alert, as if silently promising he would never leave her side. Mark looked at the intruder. What's her name to the world now? The man's eyes glinted with sadness and hope. Lily Parker. The world won't know what she carries yet, but she will change everything, and together, we'll make sure she survives it. The storm had passed, but outside, the shadows were moving. Danger was coming, but inside, a child had been found. A dog had never abandoned her, and a promise had been made. She would be protected, no matter the cost. And in that quiet, tense moment, for the first time in hours, hope felt almost possible.